Hey everybody, welcome to Largo's Lair. I'm Largo, this is the Lair, and today on AF3 we are going to be talking about the one, the only, Condor. And of course I'm not going to do it by myself, I would only do it with my co-host, William from Wilhelm Toy and Hobby. Hey Will.
Hey Jim, thanks for having me back.
Always a pleasure, my friend. So, let's talk about Condor. I'm excited for this one. We've gotten the preliminaries done. We've talked about the world of the Valaverse. Now we're getting ready to start talking about the characters. And this was one of my first experiences with the actual figures because I got all of Series 1 pretty much at the same time. And of course, I had to open up Condor first. Awesome figure. And after reading some of the lore, I have a much better appreciation for him now. So for those who maybe just have a cursory knowledge of him, we'll play a little roll call. So that is Condor. And like I said, really excited about this. So let me start off with the first slide. What we're going to do is basically go through the information that is in the combat profile and the mission files. We're going to wait on going into the excellent novel by Bill Nedrow because we want to make sure that everybody's had a chance to read it before we go into any details there. But we may kind of talk about, from a character profile perspective, how that colors who Condor is, but in a non-spoilery way. So Condor is a code name for Laird Barnes. His primary specialty is infantry. His secondary skill is intelligence. He was born in Dorset, England, and his rank affiliation is captain with Action Force.
All right. And yeah, most of the information we're getting here can also be found on his combat profile on the back of the package. We're expanding on it slightly, but this is your best place to start with Condor before you move into the mission files or the novel.
Right. Well, again, we're exploring the lore. We're looking at who these characters are, how they fit in the Valaverse. And all of this information is available either through the combat profile cards or the Valaverse website. Much of this information you can get for free if you just go to the website and check it out. With that in mind, here's just a visual representation of where our buddy is from. Laird Barnes was born in Dorset, England, as we've said, and this was the hometown of his parents. Couple of images here, just a basic village in Dorset, and one of the features that the tourists like, it's called the Dirtle Door. The little red spot down at the bottom of the map is Dorset. I always liked that about the old G.I. Joe file cards when they would give a hometown or some place of where these people came from, because then it would definitely allow you to feel connected, especially if you were from a similar area.
And the Dirtle Door is just fun to say. So, that's thank you for sharing that, Jim.
Indeed.
All right. So at the age of 2, Laird had his first encounter with the realities of terrorism, as his parents' lives were taken from them in a local bombing. Laird was discovered by a lieutenant in the Paris, who rescued the child from the devastation left behind. The lieutenant and his wife adopted the child and raised them as their own. Laird grew up in the shadow of his adopted father, and learned to soldier from a very young age. When he was old enough, he was told what actually happened to his biological parents, bringing the childhood memories to the surface.
And this is
Yeah.
definitely a real world situation that Bobby borrowed from. I just did a little bit of research into terrorist related deaths in the UK, and the statistics are kind of scary. I mean, this is something that we as continental Americans didn't really deal with as much until 9/11 and other bombings that have come up in recent years. But in the UK, this has been going on for a long time. As you can see from the stats here, terrorist incidents from 1970 to 2015 are all these little red spots on the map. And there are a lot of them, including Dorset, England. So this, even though it is a fictional character, it's definitely based on some very scary real world statistics.
Mm-hmm.
So as we said, Laird was definitely raised to know he was going to be in the military because of being raised by a lieutenant in the Perez. So for Laird, serving the crown was not an option. It was his only choice. He committed himself to serving Great Britain, and after completing the combat training course at Catterick, Laird volunteered for the Perez, where he was assigned to the 1st Battalion. Just some background stuff here. We have the crest that is for the British Army, and there is a picture there of Catterick Garrison, where training begins. And on the other side, we have the symbol for the Perez. Para being shortened abbreviation of the Parachute Regiment, and the first battalion is of particular note because they do serve with the special forces, and of course that's going to lead right into where Laird goes next in his training.
Yeah, so after deploying on rotation, Laird was sent to officer training, and while there, he volunteered for selection. Within a year, he found himself at Bradbury Lines as a troop leader in the 22 SAS. Laird would spend the next 10 years of his career as a leader in the 22 SAS before being sent to the U.S. as a liaison officer. And so Jim put together some really good information here. And, I just want to thank him again because, while I was familiar with, the background of him, I didn't know all of this about it. I'm not much of a military history buff, other than, I like it, I think we all do. But yeah, so the motto or slogan, I always mess it up, but for the Special Air Service insignia is who dares wins, and that's their symbol there. So you got they're active from 1941 through 45, and then 47 to present, serving the United Kingdom. They are a branch of the British Army. They are special forces, special operations and counterterrorism. So they have 3 regiments, and they are part of the UK Special Forces. So yeah, thanks, Jim. Like I said, all this information, as I learn it, it endears me to the character even more because I understand his backstory better. So I'm very grateful for that.
Thank you. I agree. Being someone who was raised in a military family and then going active duty myself later on, I really appreciate the pedigree that we're seeing with someone like Laird.
Yeah.
Bobby didn't just choose to make him just an officer. He made him an officer of some very significant branches of the military. And the SAS has a very proud tradition of being the best, especially the 22 SAS, as we'll see in this next area here. We'll talk about just in general, what is the SAS? We say special forces. The special forces in Britain are very similar to what we have in the United States, but there are some subtle differences. So just in general, the Special Air Service, SAS, is a special forces unit of the British Army. It was founded as a regiment in 1941 by David Stirling, and in 1950 it was reconstituted as a corps. The unit specializes in a number of roles, including counterterrorism, hostage rescue, direct action, and covert reconnaissance. Much of the information about the SAS is highly classified, and the unit is not commented on by either the British government or the Ministry of Defense due to the secrecy and sensitivity of its operations. So these guys are no joke.
So Laird served as a troop leader in the 22 SAS. The 22nd Special Air Service Regiment, which is part of the regular army, gained fame and recognition worldwide after its televised rescue of all but 2 of the hostages held during the 1980 Iranian embassy siege. Now, I was only 5 when this happened, and I don't remember seeing it live, but I know, Jim, you said you had strong memories of this moment.
I do. When I was a young lad, I actually had the privilege of living in Scotland. My father had been stationed with the USS Holland, which was a submarine tender. So I got to spend time in the UK. So in the late 70s, around 77, 78, I was actually living there, exposed to the culture, really loved my time there. By 80, I was back in the States, but I always had a strong, anything going on with the UK, my ears perked up. And I remember this being on the news, and it was just gobsmacking because, one, to see, a hostage situation on television was, for an American, was still unheard of. And to see these guys in action, not at the time knowing really who they were, but now going back and looking at it going, this is 22 SAS. These guys were able to rescue all but 2, and that was no small feat. And as you can see, they were all about get in there, get it done, and save as many people as possible. Very professional. And this was very unusual because they are covert. They don't want to be televised. They don't want to gain recognition. They want to stay under the radar. So it was a very rare situation where they were put in the public spotlight for a moment. And that kind of brings us up to where we are now with Laird. So you get the idea that he is someone who has a lineage of military tradition, not only from his adopted father, but just the groups that he chose to volunteer for were very prestigious, groups that are not easy to become a part of, let alone to spend a decade of his career serving as a leader in some of those positions. So this guy is the best of the best, and it makes sense why he would be sent as a liaison to the United States, because he is a highly decorated and well-seasoned officer. And that really led to some conflict for him, because during his first 6 months stateside, say that 5 times fast, he witnessed the dissolution of the Union and found himself torn between following orders or doing what he felt was right. And we've highlighted here mission file number 2, because that's really one of the first times we see Condor in action. And in that particular story, he goes up against the bone collector.
Yeah, it was pretty action-packed.
I was going to say, what were your thoughts when you first read issue 2?
Yeah, no, that was great. And like I said, initially in issue 1, you're kind of just given this overview of the world, but this is the first time, it was time for action. So we saw, Condor, just going up against the bone collector, who is like the epitome of evil. I don't know if he was ready for, how bad a dude he was going up against. And, it makes me wonder why he was sent to the U.S. as a liaison. Because, I guess they had some kind of interest in what was going on over here, because I'm sure the worldwide community knew something was afoot. But I don't think anyone knew that the entire Union would just dissolve and that it would fall into this chaos, so.
That is an interesting question. How much did the intelligence services of other countries pick up on there were problems in the United States prior to?
Was Condor, ready, thinking that he was going to go into combat in the United States when he arrived here? I don't know. I know that when when things come up, he reacts accordingly.
Right. And you
we
can see,
that.
especially, in this first issue, he is a very strategic thinker. He knew exactly where to hit the Bone Collector and his convoy. And he's not dealing with just a thug. The Bone Collector is also a military strategist. And so it was like watching two guys playing chess, but with bullets flying. I mean, they're very calculating. And we see he is very precise, methodical, and when he needs to, he can be ruthless, just like the Bone Collector. So they do have some similarities in the fact that they're willing to use their knowledge and tactics to get the job done. The big difference here is Laird has a code of honor, and I don't believe that the Bone Collector is burdened with that.
No, not at all. And
And then the real big issue here for
Condor. So issue 5 is probably the most compelling part of the story so far. I mean, action's great and everything. We like it, but when they go back and they show, so just without spoiling it, but just a brief overview of Action Force Mission Files number 5. Condor
Mission Files have been out long enough.
Yeah, Condor
I think we can spoil these.
By his CO, who is also his adoptive father, it's time to come home. The shit has hit the fan in the U.S. or the former U.S. and we're pulling you out. We've got all the information we need, and we're taking you back. Now, Condor, being in the thick of it now, he has to make a decision, and he sees what's going on. And then they show a flashback scene where he reflects on his time, and I don't remember exactly where it was, but somewhere in the Middle East. Is Afghanistan?
I want to say it was, yeah.
Somewhere,
I know what you mean. Right.
Somewhere in the area there, but a former a time where he was told, "That's it, we're pulling out," and Condor says, "Well, if we pull out, these guys are just going to run roughshod all over these people. These are innocents. We've got to get them out of here. They're still coming." And he said, "Well, it's not our problem anymore. We're pulling out." I think his dad says, "I'm getting on a chopper and I'm out of here, and I expect you back by morning or whatever." And he takes it upon himself to try and rescue as many of those people as he can, because he knows with their absence, they're just going to get run over. And that's a really dangerous situation for those people, and he didn't want to leave them behind. And one of the last scenes you see is a woman handing him her child and just saying, "Make sure my baby lives," and it's just rough. And in the end of the scene, you see pretty much, as they're driving away, these people are just getting eradicated, and he doesn't want that to happen again. He sees this happening on a larger scale. The garrison cavalry is taking over states. The swarm has got them enthralled. He can't let that happen on a larger scale, a countrywide, a huge countrywide scale, or the United States. I don't know, what village or place he was. It was fictional, but it's still touching. So he finds out that Carrick is on the move, and that he's taking a location that holds a very deadly secret.
Mm-hmm.
And it's at that moment that he decides to forsake all of the things that he has worked towards and do what's right, because he knows that these chemical weapons in the hands of the enemy could be devastating to all these people. And he leads a mission, a successful mission, to counter Carrick and destroy these possible weapons.
Right. So we really get a very interesting glimpse into not only Condor, but also Carrick. And we see how calculating and how his mind works in this issue as well. The main thing I take away from this specifically about Condor is this man has a moral compass that points true north all the time. His creed is, "I'm going to do what's right," period.
Yeah.
And sometimes that means bucking orders, but it's also, part of his training. It's ingrained in him to have honor and to do things the right way. And so it puts him in a really, really difficult position because he wants to follow orders, which would mean going back to Britain, but at what cost? So it's, duty, honor. Sometimes the two are divided. And this is one of those cases where in order to do what he believes is right, it will come at a personal sacrifice. And in this case, the sacrifice is his career.
Consequences that he was well aware of, because he has a conversation with Trigger before it, and he says, if I do this, I'm done. And it's a great scene, but he says he's going to go back, and then he comes outside and Trigger's waiting in the Jeep for him. And he says,
Trigger's got his number. Trigger already knew. He's like, man, I knew you were going to do the right thing. I wasn't even breaking a sweat.
He comes out and he says, oh, you were waiting for me, and Trigger's to get in, and they go off on the mission. Now, at the end, it's really kind of touching, too. So, one of the last scenes you see is Condor saying, I know what I did. I know the consequences for what I did, and I did what was right, and it was successful. And the coldest thing happens. You see that his father is writing him a message about his disappointment and everything with him. From the reader's perspective, you see it, but he never sends it. All Condor sees is connection terminated. He doesn't even get that message. So he sends this thing and gets no reply, meaning he is cut off. So, just one last thing, just listen, if the world as we know it became the world of Valaverse Action Force, Condor, after just this information, is the guy I would want leading the charge to stand up for those that cannot contend with the forces at play here. He lives by a personal code of honor that many claim to, but fall far short of. Condor has demonstrated that the price for doing what is right is sometimes everything you've got and more. Condor willingly gave up his entire career and personal life to fight for what is right. He is the embodiment of what we should all strive to be, and also has the necessary skills and experience to make this stand against the forces of New Colonia. So,
indeed,
for that,
although, I mean, on the other hand, because he is so driven, because he does have such a straight moral compass, he's going to rub people the wrong way, even his allies. And I think that's something that we're going to see in the future. It brings up some good questions, such as, how does Condor's leadership and tactics differ from some of the people he works with? Many of Action Force are former U.S. Special Forces. Mm-hmm. Maybe their tactics differ. Maybe their choices would not be the same. So how often does that come up? And he is an outsider. He is not from the United States. He, as we say, he doesn't have a dog in the fight. He is here and has chosen to take a leadership role, but how many resent that because he is not, homegrown, as you Floridians say. And as we just talked about, what are the ramifications of Condor's decision at the end of Mission 5? Well, there's severe consequences for him. For what
and not necessarily, there's consequences on, this side of the pond, but is there going to be something, he's already proven that he's taken this fight to them, and he has led successful missions. So as this war builds and, reaches its peak, at the end of it all, what's waiting for him? Is it a jail cell for abandoning his post, his duty to the crown? I don't know. That would be really interesting to see.
And I would assume it is definitely going to be something that's going to come up either in some of the aspects of the novel, which we're not ready to go into yet, or in the feature film that is coming. This is a rich story and a very, very interesting character. So if I didn't already have a lot of appreciation just for the aesthetic of the character, now that I know more of his backstory, wow, it definitely gives me a bigger appreciation for what Bobby Val is trying to build. It's not just
certainly does.
Yeah, I mean, the action figures are great, but he's building a world. He's building something exciting, and it's gonna there's depth, and I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's my favorite part of the whole line is the story. So you know that,
Yeah,
and the
that's
world
why
knows
we're
that.
that's why we're
Um,
exploring the lore right now.
yeah,
So
so yeah, it's some really great stuff. Condor's an exciting character to start with. He is, I know. Spoiler alert, there's people above him in the Action Force. He's not the leader. He doesn't make all the decisions, but he is the
right,
feet on the ground leader of the Action Force, the main team. He's leading the missions on the ground, and I would want no other person to be that uh,
right.
there than
I
Condor.
mean,
So
when they're going out in the field, he is on point. He's the guy
yeah,
who is leading those, and probably has a heavy hand in planning and the tactics of those missions. And
yep,
it's a whole different kind of combat. I mean, this isn't like large groups of military going out and doing maneuvers. These are almost guerrilla tactics that he's having to use. And this is something that, as a SAS officer, he is well versed in. As you could
yep,
see from looking at the type of training, he's ready to be adaptable, and that's what makes him a good leader.
yeah.
So, one of the things from last week that was in the comments, somebody asked us if you were going to cast the Valaverse film for Action Force, who would play whom? And so Will and I kind of played around with that. And it's like, well, I'm not real up to date on a lot of modern actors and actresses, but we talked about it and we made a pick for who we think would make a good Condor. And let's see if maybe you guys would agree. Alexander Skarsgård is the guy we
So
chose.
what do you guys think? I mean, just on the visual there, I did find two pictures. I did think of him before I knew that he starred in two movies that were probably more than 10 years old. Or I'm sorry, it was an HBO original series, Generation Kill, and then a movie which also had the word kill in it. It was some other, it was like Mission to Kill or something.
Right.
I
I
don't
mean,
know
the
if it was
point
really a
being,
good movie, but
he's played military roles. He has played a British accent. He did a very good Lord Greystoke for Tarzan. He could do the job. He would be my pick, even if he is maybe a little
yeah.
old for the role. He could pull it off. But again, what do you guys think? Put something in the
Yeah.
comments. Yay, nay. Tell us we're crazy. We don't care.
Yeah.
What
Well,
do
I
you
was going
got?
to say, you've heard what I think about him, and I've heard what you think about Condor, and we've shared some of the information. Why don't we check with these live Will and Jim and see what they have to say, and maybe join the chat.
Yeah, we better check him out, and probably should check on Eduardo too, because he gets rowdy when we're not around. All right, see you on the other side.
All right. We'll see you. I'll unmute myself. You go ahead. And I'll let you unmute yourself because I don't want to double.
There we go. Sorry.
Hey, there he is. Hey, everyone. Hope you enjoyed our discussion on Condor there. I really had a good time talking about it.
He's fascinating, and like we've talked about before, the more we delve into the lore, the more we have a greater appreciation for what Bobby's trying to build.
Yeah, and that's kind of the whole point of the series is to, go deeper than, what we change clothes so fast. Yeah. So, is to delve deeper and to kind of give these characters character, to really talk about the things that make them who they are, without the movie being out right now, and the comics in a limited run, and there's only so much info you could pack on the back of a package. I feel like it's a really good thing, and I don't hear many people discussing it, so we're doing it. So hopefully
Well,
you enjoy it.
we're putting a change to that. I think we're going to start a conversation that's going to lead to other people thinking about this and exploring the lore as well.
Mhm.
So that's my hope.
Oh,
Just want to show everybody that there's more to this than meets the eye. Wait, that's Transformers. Never mind.
so some really nice comments coming in about the casting call, and I thought this would be the portion of it that sparked the most discussion, because everyone has a favorite actor. But Damian Lewis or Michael Fassbender would be great Condors, in your opinion. Great, yeah.
Yeah, I could see either one of them doing it too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Yes, we are wizards, so it's magic. So, how do we do on the name that Merc?
Well, let's take a look. Let me look at the poll here real quick. So far, the Boar Slayer is at 16%, Whisper is 26%, and Raptor is a whopping 58%. So that is a clear leader at this point.
All right. Well, if you haven't voted yet, please go ahead, click that poll up at the top there and vote. Jim, do you have a picture of our Merc for anyone that didn't
I
catch
do.
the live episode?
Yeah, we talked about him last week. This is our Merc, a hunter, is all we know about him so far. And Will and I looked through all the comments in the chat, or in the comment section from last week, and these were the top 3 that we picked, and we're leaving the final vote to you. So whatever you vote for in the poll, whoever is the highest rated of the 3 will be the official name for our first Name That Merc contest. So
All right.
we'll let that
So you
run
want to
for a
give
little
everyone
bit.
a couple more minutes, and we'll see if anyone has any questions, or I think there's some more suggestions for the casting call.
Yeah, how about I run the Merc bit again,
Sure.
just to let people know who this guy uh, could be, and we'll see where it goes. Yeah, so he's obviously getting ready to do some battle here with our buddy Condor, and looks like a clever girl has found her way into the alley there.
They should all.
So
be
yeah,
That's my
that's
favorite
good. He's obviously inspired by a certain hunter from Jurassic fame, and but he's a new character. He's somebody else, and some of the names you guys picked definitely reflect his head sculpt, where that comes from. It'll be interesting to see what the final tally is. It looks like Raptor is the clear favorite so far.
Yeah, he's winning by a landslide. I did want to bring up the Gap After Dark. He suggested Alan Richson from Reacher. Not familiar with who he is, but yeah, I'll look into it.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
He's a big boy. I could definitely see him in Action Force. I'm not sure which role would be best. I don't know if I'd see him for Condor, but maybe.
Yeah.
That's a good thought.
Sergeant Slaughter Slaughterhouse, Zazel, how you doing? Saying go Team Raptor. Looks like everyone's on Team Raptor there. Treasures for Trigger likes Raptor too. Okay. All right. Let's see. So let's give it a couple, another minute or so, and then we will. And Ted saying clever. Now that I think of it, yes,
that's it.
So I think it's pretty clear who's going to win this one. I don't think
Yeah,
a
pretty
dozen
much.
Boar Slayer people are going to show up in the chat in the next couple of minutes.
Although Boar Slayer is pretty clever. I like that one. But getting back to our man of the hour, Condor, what you guys have anything in the chat? Any questions? Any thoughts? Anything we missed? Anything that you'd like to discuss? Put it in the chat, and we'll talk about it right now. While we're waiting for our poll to wind down, I guess we covered it pretty well.
Yeah. Pretty nice. I mean, I'm sorry. I was just trying to pull something up, but it's
I
not.
was going to say trying to multitask.
Yeah, multitasking. Forget that one. Yeah. So okay. Let's see here.
Well,
We've got.
let's give them a little tease of what's for next week. What do you think about that?
Oh yeah. That's a good idea.
So we had a lot of fun exploring the lore of Condor, and the next in the series, I think you're gonna like.
Yes, love those promos. They really get me pumped to talk about them. So we watch it right before we go live. Those are great, Jim.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. I have a lot of fun putting those together, and it gives me a chance to, do some toy photography, which I enjoy, and explore. Steel
We have a
Brigade
good
is
question.
fun.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I didn't want to cut you off. We have a good question here from Ted. He says, is the backstory between Condor and Rollout mentioned in the book in one of the comics? No, but I believe when you're reading the book, you're going to see that they go back and kind of explain some of that. But I don't think Rollout appears in any of the mission files. There is a write-up on his mission or his combat profile card, but he appears in the background, but I don't think he has a direct story in the comic.
Right. We see Rollout in cameo in some scenes, but he doesn't have any speaking parts in the mission files. But what happens in the mission files will be addressed in the novel. So we'll be cryptic about that. I only play the radio and sometimes the kazoo, but I do like the guitar.
All right, well, Jim, I think you could close out the poll. We have a winner for our Merc. We are not revealing another Merc to name this week, but on the next episode, we will have another Merc that you can name. And if you guys like this segment, I had a lot of fun with it. I hope you did too. We could continue it. And if you like the casting call, let us know because, if you don't like it, it was based on a question that we got. So we went ahead and answered it to the best of our abilities. So,
if you'll copy that for me, Will, I'll go ahead and put it up on our community board so people can check it out later. But with 21 votes, the highest percentage goes to Raptor at 61%. So congratulations to Raptor, our newest member of the Spare Parts Missionary Group.
And thank you for everyone. Yeah, and thank you to everyone that commented with a name suggestion. We love them all. I really did like Boar Slayer. I'll admit I voted for it. That came from No Way Farms. I don't see him here in the chat today, but he even wrote a nice little profile for him, and it was really funny, and I really just made me laugh. So that's why I definitely chose Boar Slayer.
I was a little partial to Boar Slayer myself. And when we write his backstory, there may be some boar slaying involved.
Well, he also
So
put a name. His real name is Bill Borglin. It just
that's a
cracks me
mouthful.
every time I read it. I know it. I know. It just makes me laugh. So, just one of those things. So, yeah. Oh, God. Glad you like it. Yeah, really cool. You can thank Bjorn for that. But yeah, I guess that's it, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jim, for having me and doing this. And we'll be back. When will we be back?
Um, not next week, but the week after. So every other Monday we'll be doing this. Weekly, honestly, would be is desirable, but it's a lot of work to put this together. Plus, we have our fingers in some other pies with Weird Fantastic and Wilhelm Toy and Hobby. So every other week is kind of where we're at this point. But yeah, Steel Brigade is next, and we're going to cover everybody in Series 1, and then we'll go right on into Series 2. We will be doing a special live report from Valicon, otherwise known as Joe Fest. We're going to have some boots on the ground there. Will and our buddy Bjorn are going to be there. So,
Yeah.
and sometime between now and then, we're probably going to have a couple special guests that will join us as we talk about some of these characters. And yeah, lots of good stuff coming up, guys. So stay tuned. Oh, and a good shout out there. I love that Blue Thunder bit you did. That is a cool toy, and good looking out Bjorn helping him to find that. So thanks again, everybody. And, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell everybody to come and explore the lore.
Thank
you guys
you.
have a good night.
Have a great night, guys.